What's going on, boys? How you guys doing today? Welcome back to another Steam 2 video. And in today's video, we're going to be talking about fusion rifles. We all know about the linear changes and how everyone's pretty much excited about the linears being better, but I feel like not enough people are mentioning the regular fusion rifles, which are also going to be taking advantage of these mods, like the Unstoppable and the Particle Reconstruction. So that's what we're doing today. We're going to be giving the spotlight to some of the regular fusion rifles that you should keep in mind while going into Heresy, especially some of the exotic ones, because we have like so many unique exotic fusion rifles in the game that you definitely don't want to ignore them. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the video, and if you do, remember to leave a like on the video since it does help it out. But without further ado, let's get into it and let's take a look at these fusions. So let's start this off with some fusion rifles in the Kinetic slot, and I want to start with the Scatter Signal, the Strand fusion rifle from Season of the Wish. Now this thing has a couple of things going for it. It is a rapid fire frame, meaning that you can fire it faster, and it overall gets some more damage out there than some of the slower rate of fire fusions. And it also has some fantastic DPS perks. So if you're on a heavy and you need a good special to do some damage, this is going to be very good. Or if you just want this to take out some of the mini bosses, maybe some champions, this is also going to be great for that. And the role that you're looking for on this weapon is going to be Control Burst plus Overflow. Now this perk combo complements each other so well. You get like 18 to 21 shots into your magazine with Enhanced Overflow, and then you basically just lay on the trigger with Control Burst, and as long as you're hitting all your bolts, you're going to be constantly charging the weapon faster and doing some extra damage. And if you're doing damage against a big target, you pretty much can proc Control Burst every single time, meaning that you constantly have that damage boost and a faster charge rate. So this thing is going to be fantastic. The main downside of this weapon is that if you were not playing during Season of the Wish, it is a very hard weapon to get. Basically, the only way to get these weapons from Season of the Wish is the Star-Crossed Exotic mission. And it's not even guaranteed that you get one of these. You could get one of the many weapons that are in there, so that kind of sucks. But if you guys did play during Season of the Wish, this is going to be a fantastic fusion rifle from that season, so hopefully you have the pattern. Now our next weapon is going to be a Nuts Perennial. Now this one is just a random world drop, so some of you guys may actually have some of these fusion rifles in your vault, or if not, you can also farm it on certain days in the Lost Sectors. And this is essentially the Scatter Signal, but as a high impact fusion rifle. You basically go for the exact same perks as on the Scatter Signal, Control Burst, but this time with Envious Assassin for essentially the same thing. You overflow your magazine as much as you can, and then with Control Burst, you just get as much damage as you can out there. So this can be a good replacement for those of you guys that don't have the Scatter Signal, but it essentially does the same thing, just a little slower since it is a high impact frame, but it does do a lot more damage per shot, so it kind of balances it out. I think the Scatter Signal still wins out in the end, but I would definitely still keep one of these, just in case, because it's a really good Strand fusion rifle. Now the Kinetic slot is home to the Bastion, the exotic fusion rifle. I can definitely see this being fantastic next season. It is already a pretty good weapon, and it has built-in Unstoppable, so you don't even have to run the Unstoppable mod, and this thing will always be unstoppable. Now the Bastion does have a bit of a weirder playstyle when it comes to fusion rifles, since essentially it has Trench Barrel, buffer fusions, so that kind of throws people off a little bit, but once you get used to it, you get rewarded with so much damage on the Bastion. You kind of have to treat it more like a shotgun than a fusion rifle, but I can definitely see this thing just destroying champions next season with the mod, as well as when you actually get your melee buff. The Bastion I think is going to be a really good one. And since we are on the Kinetic slot, I should mention the Chocolate fusion rifles. Basically any Chocolate fusion rifle is just going to get better. They're going to be doing the same thing they do now, but even better. And that's pretty much all I have to say. You know, the Chocolate fusion rifles are already very popular in the game just because of Chocolate, so I'm sure I don't have to tell anyone about those. And the easiest one to get is of course the one for the Crucible, especially if you enhanced it, which is something that you can do right now. Now for the energy slot, this is where things start getting kind of fun and a little bit different with the exotics. But first of all, we gotta start with the Bet's Metal class. This is probably one of the most unique fusion rifles we have, since it is a primary weapon. So it's essentially not a rifle, but it also has the option to go and turn itself into a linear. And I don't think I've seen enough people talk about the Bet's Mental class, but this thing is gonna be amazing next season. It's gonna stun champions, it's gonna have the constant damage buff. Since it's primary ammo, you're never gonna run out of ammo. And also its exotic perk allows it to turn into a linear fusion, dealing some ridiculous damage. That part of the weapon has been getting buffed constantly, so whenever you switch to linear mode, you're gonna be able to destroy champions just by itself. You're not even gonna need like heavy or special, just the vets is gonna be enough for next season. And I'm really looking forward to it. The vets have to be one of my favorite weapons. It looks great, it sounds amazing, and it's about to be a PvE beast. So if you guys have the vets mid class, definitely take it out for a spin next season. Now if you don't have it, I got some pretty good news for you, because the bolt glass weapons are gonna be craftable next season, meaning that there's gonna be a lot of people wanting to raid and do bolt glass, so you can definitely get in there and hopefully get your mid class as well as pretty much all the new weapons with some better rolls. And I'm actually really excited to see this as well. But yeah, the Ben's mid class is gonna be fantastic, and it's one of the most unique fusion rifles we have. Now from one exotic fusion to another one, next we have the Telesto. And I kind of have the Telesto here just because the way that it's going to be getting some buffs. It's been such a long time since we had any sort of like buff for the Telesto, but they definitely look pretty fun. Are they going to be effective? We'll have to wait and see. It's really going to depend on the damage that add to the Telesto in PvE, but if it is a lot of damage, then I could definitely see it being good. And if it's not, I think it's still going to be like a fun niche weapon. But yeah, I just wanted to mention the Telesto since it's getting the buff, and I'll definitely be checking it out. Next, we're going to have the Tachyon Force, and this is the fusion rifle from the last Wish raid. And just like all the other legendary fusion rifles, it takes great advantage of Control Burst. Control Burst is just like the fusion rifle PvE perk, so pretty much any legendary fusion is going to try to take advantage of this perk. And this one works really well since you can get Control Burst plus Rewind rounds, allowing you to fire this weapon for a very, very long time. It essentially just does the same thing as some of the other ones like MBS or Overflow, where you just try to get as many shots out there as possible without having to reload and taking advantage of Control Burst. Now this weapon is craftable, so it's easy to get a good roll, but it also comes from the raid, which means that a lot of you guys may actually not have it. What I would recommend is that you wait for the last Wish raid to be one of the weekly raids, and then look for some people that are farming the first encounter. There's usually a couple people farming it, and that's just like the easiest way to get these weapons if you're just interested in getting the weapon rolls without having to do the full raid. So that can be an easy way to get that done. On this slot we also have the Plug 1, which is kind of similar to the Tachyon Force. They're both arc fusion rifles, except that this one is a precision frame while the other one is an adaptive. But this one's definitely a lot easier to get, since this one comes from the Nifles or from the Grandmaster Nifles. But it can get some rolls that are pretty similar, with being able to get Control Burst plus Reconstruction. And if you want it for PvE, that's pretty much what you want to have. I know most of you guys might consider like the Plug 1 like a PvP weapon. I mean, that's what it seems like everyone's going for on this weapon, but it can definitely put in some work in PvE, even as a precision frame. Another fusion rifle that I want to mention is the Eremite, the solar fusion rifle from Season of the Witch. Now, I actually don't think you can actually get your hands on this weapon, like, at all. I don't think there's any missions where the Season of the Witch weapons actually drop, so you pretty much have to have this as a pattern or have it in your vault already. But it's a really good option if you're looking for a solar fusion rifle, and again, it has Control Burst plus MB Assassin, so you can get a bunch of shots out there with that extra damage. It is a high impact frame, so it does charge up a little slower, and I know some people are not big fans of the high impact frames, but I think it does some pretty good damage, and it's definitely worth a try, especially on some solar aligned activities. Now for a second, we're going to come back to the exotic fusion rifles, because I want to talk a little bit about the Delicate Tomb. Now this one is getting some big buffs mid-season, and it's going to have some great synergy with a lot of the arc mods that we're going to be having, as well as some of the arc buffs and even some of the new aspects. This is the season of the Delicate Tomb. Everything's lining up just perfectly for this weapon for it to actually see some play. It's an arc weapon, it's a fusion rifle, so it's going to be supercharged thanks to the mods and the artifacts, and I'm already thinking about a couple of builds with the Delicate Tomb. It's definitely going to be pretty good. And I definitely recommend that you get the catalyst done with this thing. It adds some auto reloading whenever you pick up some ionic traces, so it's going to be very useful for any sort of like arc build. And I'm actually going to be following that advice myself because I actually do not have the catalyst completed, so I definitely need to get out there and complete that myself. And the last exotic fusion rifle that I want to talk about has to be the Jotun. It has very high damage per shot, it has quite a bit of ammo, and it's going to be able to take advantage of both the mods, the Unstoppable, and also the particle deconstruction. So I can definitely see this one being pretty good. I would definitely recommend the catalyst for this one as well, since it adds a little bit more ad clear potential by giving the weapon some incandescent. So not only are you going to have some pretty high single target damage, but you're still going to have a little bit of AoE. I don't think this one's going to be maybe as good as some of the other like exotic fusion rifles I mentioned, but I definitely still think that's going to be worth trying, and some of you guys may actually end up falling in love with this weapon. Now before we move on to the heavy fusions, I gotta mention the Cartesian, because this bad boy was the king of last time particle reconstruction was essentially in the game. Now from there to now, it's been like almost 3 years, so the perks definitely have gotten better on the fusion rifles. All we had last time was Vorpal, and that was pretty much as good as it got with fusions. I think that this weapon deserves a bit of a shout out, and if you guys have it, hey, maybe take it out one of these days, and maybe you'll still kind of like it. I think you'll still be able to put on some pretty decent damage, but I don't know if it's going to be able to keep up with today's fusions. But just wanted to mention that, since, you know, this Cartesian got me through so many things back in the day. And now let's take a look at our one heavy fusion rifle, which is the 1000 Voices. And this thing is going to be fantastic. I cannot wait to see like how much damage this thing is actually going to do. I wonder if it's going to be able to keep up with the linear fusion rifles. I hope that it is, but we'll have to wait and see. The one downside of this weapon is that it does come from the last Wish raid, so a lot of you guys I know probably don't have it, and also that it can very easily kill you in like any sort of like DPS phase if somebody walks in front of you. So you have to be kind of careful with this weapon, but I definitely think that it can still be very fun, and it's going to be putting out a lot of damage next season. And with this, you'll be able to pretty much run the triple fusion rifle loadouts, if that's what you want to do. And that's pretty much it for the heavy fusions. You know, the heavy slot is mostly the linear fusion rifle territory. So if you guys are looking for some of those suggestions, I'll make sure to leave a video somewhere on the screen right now, so you guys can go and check out that video where we go over some of the best linears for next season. But with that, we're going to end today's video. Thank you all for watching. Thank you for stopping by. Let me know in the comments below what is the fusion rifle that you're going to be looking forward to, what are the exotic ones, and hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Thank you for watching today, thank you for stopping by, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.